Hello, everyone. This is Michael Gibbs from Go Cloud Architects. How are you all today? Pretty excited to be here with you. It's been a really eventful week. We've been going through our free AWS Certified Solution Architect Associate Bootcamp this week. Last night, we did a BGP tutorial. Facebook, for example, had a pretty big BGP outage, and I've been coaching BGP and teaching BGP for well over 20 years now. So we did an intro to BGP lecture. The link you can find is on our YouTube channel. And we've had thousands upon thousands of people attend our completely free AWS Certified Solution Architect Associate Bootcamp, and we have received so many positive comments, emails, feedbacks, messages, and we're super excited. But today we're here to help you with any type of a cloud architect career question you may have. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Michael Gibbs, and I'm the founder and CEO of Go Cloud Architects. And we're an organization that's completely 100% dedicated to getting you cloud hired, building cloud computing and networking careers. Now, the reason we do this is we want to help you get your first tech job, get promoted in tech, and have a fantastic tech career. I've spent 25 years working in tech and well over 20 years coaching and mentoring others, and it's a really fantastic experience. After my 25-plus year career, it became very clearly obvious that it's time to raise the next generation of technology leaders, and we are 100% committed in helping you become the best technology professional you can be for the future. So wanted to let you know that's what we're here, and we love helping you throughout your career. This Friday, while we're waiting for people to ask some questions, I wanted to let you know that I'm going to be bringing in the recruiters from IT Excel again. If you'll recall, the previous time a few weeks ago, we had three really serious tech recruiters come in. Together, they had about 70 years of experience helping people find their best jobs. So we were super excited about that. So these are the kind of things that we're actually talking about. I see some people are here. I see new techie. You enjoyed yesterday's sessions. I'm so happy to hear that, and love that we were able to be part of it. Good morning, Dan DTM. So happy to have you here. Chan Wang. Killian, good morning. So happy to see you this morning again, Killian. Hope to see you this afternoon. Chan Wang. Which cloud domain should you choose, GCP, AWS, or Azure? Let me answer that question a little differently. I don't think you choose any cloud. I think you choose the cloud. So I'll explain to you why I say this. When I was 15 or 16 years old, I learned how to drive. And I didn't learn how to drive a Chevy and then take another training course to learn how to drive a Honda and another one to learn how to drive a Mercedes. All I did is I learned how to drive. And after coaching people in technology years for well over 20 years, where I see people get themselves in trouble is they learn a vendor. I'm going to learn AWS or I'm going to learn Azure. And in the process, the following things occur. You know the name of the AWS service and how it works, but you don't really know how all the pieces and parts work. And then when you have to deal with a multi-cloud environment, and let me tell you, there's no such thing as an AWS cloud environment or just an Azure cloud environment or just a GCP environment. That's something that the cloud vendors have tried to convince us, but its reality is organizations have their data centers. They connect to 2 and 3 clouds, or they have a hybrid cloud, a private cloud in their data center and connect to 2 or 3 clouds. So you have to learn the cloud, Chen Wang, not a single cloud provider. So what do I mean by that? Here's what the cloud is. It's nothing more than a virtualized network and a virtualized data center. Nothing. So the compute functions that you have on the cloud, whether they be a server or a virtual machine, whether it be a virtual machine or a container, are the same ones on every single cloud provider. The container options are pretty much the same. The storage options, the block, object, and file storage, are the same across every cloud provider. Firewall options are the same. Load balancer options are the same. Storage options are the same. So what you see is, it's not that you need to know that one vendor, you need to know the cloud. Because see, I'm a cloud architect. If I need a virtual machine, I can choose something from Google Compute Engine, Azure, an Azure virtual machine, or an EC2 instance from AWS. If I need object storage, I can choose Microsoft Blob, AWS S3, or Google Cloud Storage. If I want to manage NoSQL database, I can choose Google Cloud Bigtable, or I can use Microsoft NoSQL, or I can use AWS DynamoDB. It doesn't matter to me. It's all a module. So what I would say is learn the cloud, not a single vendor, and you'll always be employable. Now, if you had to ask me where to get certified, That's another story. Now, certification will not get you hired. Certification is a component to help you get an interview. It's your knowledge, it's your business acumen, your communication skills, your executive presence, and all those capabilities that's going to get you hired. But if you're going to get a certification, I would not do the GCP one. Now, mind you, I'm a Google Professional Cloud Architect, but I'm telling you not to do that as your first one, and here's the reason. The Google Cloud is, realistically speaking, about 5 to 10% of all the cloud computing functions. So not everybody really knows what a cloud is. So if you're going to have a certification in your portfolio, you probably should have one of the bigger ones. And the bigger ones would be the Azure Expert, or it would be the AWS Certified Solution Architect Professional. You probably should have one of them. And the reason is, if 30, 40, 50% of it is AWS, at least your certification is in line with the biggest cloud provider. If you want to choose Azure, and Azure is a great option, again, choose Azure for a certification. But for the cloud, learn all the cloud providers, not a single cloud provider, and then you'll have a much, much, much better career. Hope I answered your question there satisfactorily. And if you got some more questions, I would love to answer them. Hi, Killian. Krill, it's so good to see you. Good afternoon in the UK. Killian, you're going to be here this afternoon. Fantastic. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Okay, you have completed the AWS Solution Architect course. Which domain can I choose a job for? So, just completing the AWS Solution Architect course doesn't necessarily prepare someone for a job. So, I would ask you the following questions. What is your background? What work have you done? And I don't care if it's in tech or out of tech, I just would need to know. And what do you actually enjoy doing? Because those will tell us how to get you to the job you like. Just taking a Certified Solution Architect Professional class and passing the Certified Solution Architect Professional exam, for the most part, is not enough to get any jobs on the cloud. But having said all that, if you have one of these certifications, and we can tell you exactly the skills you want or leverage your past experience, and it doesn't have to be in tech, then we can guide the hiring manager into having you know that you have real experience. For example, medical practice and architecture are almost the same job. So it's a matter, and while that sounds crazy, I used to practice medicine. Here's what, as a nurse practitioner, here's what I did. Patient came into the office, I asked some questions. I evaluated the patient's systems, I made an assessment, and then I give them a prescription. Here's what I do as an architect. I go to the client, I ask some questions, I baseline their systems, I make an assessment, and I create an architecture. It's the same job. So if you can tell me a little bit about what you've done or your background, I can give you there. So if you have if you've done a solution architect course and you've done something on top of it or have some experience, that could be great. But a solution architect course in itself is not enough. But we can take that solution architect course and certification you have and guide you for exactly what you need to get hired. And that's why we're doing this. So if you want to let me know what that is, NEF, I would love to answer you. But right now, I don't have enough information to answer the question. So hopefully you can give me some more information that I can answer that question better for you. And please, please, please ask questions. Don't be shy. I can help you and I want to help you. And if I can save you 6 months of time with the average cloud architect salary of 6 months, that's worth almost $80,000 to be able to guide you for a question. And that's why we're doing this. I spent so much money in the beginning of my career before I knew. I spent $20,000 in around 1998, 1999 to transition into technology. And that was in those days, which is like $60,000 and that then. Or not in today's dollars. And I don't want any of you to do that. I'm here, so please ask any questions you have. Ask the second half of that question, and I would absolutely love to help you, because there's a second half of that question, NEF, of your background or your goals, and we can either figure out that you have enough right now based upon your background, or we can guide you into exactly what you need. How can you prepare for the AWS certificate? Okay, that one's easy. So NEF, here's how I would prepare for the AWS certificate. Now, I still don't know which career you're talking about, but I'm assuming you're talking about passing the AWS Certified Solution Architect Associate, which is where we typically start people. So here's what I recommend to pass the Certified Solution Architect Associate. Number 1, join our boot camp this week. And our boot camp this week will teach you for real the AWS Certified Solution Architect Associate. And our training is so much deeper. We created our training because we bought everybody else's training and we were, let's just say, horrified with what we found. So that's why we do so much free training. So I would say do our free training course this week, then after you do our free training course, read our book this week. Then I would also tell you that Andrew Brown from Exam Pro has some extraordinarily good certification training. We focus on the getting hired piece. We focus on the leadership piece. We focus on the how to negotiate a higher salary piece. We focus on being what hiring managers want, and we focus on architecture design. But there are times you want some additional certification focus. So you know what? Andrew Brown's Certified Solution Architect Associate course is really good for passing that exam. And you know what? It's free too. So you can find that on YouTube. It's completely free. Take our course, take their course, take our book, and that's completely free. Now when it comes to the next question, I would say is, now when it comes to study materials, Haman Sharma is the CEO of Pass4Sure. I know Haman Sharma very well. He's an extremely good person, and he works very hard to have some very good practice tests written by authors throughout the world. That is, he comes from Review and Prep. I believe we actually have a 15% coupon code on our channel in the YouTube community. I asked him to give it to our students. We have no financial relationships with them whatsoever. We're not an affiliate. We don't get paid for making their name known. I'm just telling you that I trust their CEO. I like their CEO, and I think and know that it's good because I've seen and reviewed his content. So I can tell you that Review and Prep for practice test is excellent. So hope I can answer your question there. Chris, if you'd like to bring up the next question. Good morning, Tansim. Good morning, Anil. Tansim yesterday gave us some recommendations for practice exams. Can I repeat that? Absolutely. I really like the practice exams that are made by Review and Prep. I feel like there's some pretty great people, and I like them, and I know they're not the exact copy of the exam, so you'll learn, but it's not cheating. Kirill Kurilov. What do I think about the value of TOGAF as an architecture certification in parallel with a cloud specific? You know, I think TOGAF is a great certification for architects. Now, TOGAF is also fluffy, and a theoretical fluffy framework, which it's kind of like any of these things. Kind of like when you look at these security frameworks, and there are a whole lot of information about, like, in theoretical world, TOGAF is kind of the same. Having said that, TOGAF is a real architecture certification. And I would far prefer someone to wanted to be a cloud architect to get a certified solution architect professional, a TOGAF, and then a specialist one in their career, maybe something from networking, security, or data based upon what they choose to do in the cloud. So the TOGAF certification is a good certification to help you with an architecture career. And it's especially helpful on the enterprise architect roles, which, you know, that's the next level, next evolution, because you'll have your cloud engineer, your solution architect, your cloud architect, your enterprise architect on the way up. And TOGAF is great for enterprise architecture. Extremely familiar with the framework. Been an architect forever. Now I typically design things much more based upon Cisco principles, the core access distribution design method that Cisco teaches, because I found that kind of decoupling and that kind of scalability works better than any other framework I've ever seen. So that's typically what I use. But TOGAF is an excellent framework, and TOGAF would be 1,000,001 times better than someone getting SysOps or DevOps things if they choose to be an architect. So definitely think it's a good one, and it definitely won't hurt. That one can help you. I know Kumar. How much time cloud architects spend on designing infrastructure for a migration project? And what is the role after the designing of the project is done? Anil, how much a cloud architect can spend developing or designing the infrastructure for the project could be a little or a lot based upon how long it would take. I will tell you that I've actually been on architectural designs where I've had a team of 20 to 50 people that spent 6 months on a client site just baselining their current system. And after that, we were able to make the complete design. Now, what does an architect do? We design it, we present it, and we sell it. And if there's a proof of concept, we manage the cloud engineers and all the people that are going to do the proof of concept for us. So we can be there for 6 months leading a group of 20 cloud engineers doing a proof of concept if it's a big environment. So, you know, there's definitely that. So typically speaking, we design it, We move on to the next customer and move on to the next customer and move on to the next customer. So we're pretty much done after design. But, it's very common for us to go from one place to the next place, to the next place, to the next place, to the next place, all in the same company. It's really great. And you don't get bored that way because you design something and you move on to the next company. Design something, move on to the next company. Now, if you're a cloud architect that's actually working for a company, the customer company, which realistically speaking, many of us do. I've worked as an architect on Wall Street, for example. You're designing the systems for a single customer and you work at that customer. So realistically speaking, in this particular environment, you design it. When the other people roll it out, you're still the leader. And you typically lead the program management if you're working for a customer, unless you have a large project manager with you. So lots of leadership, lots of guidance, lots of supervision of others, but design, present, sell, move on. Design, present, sell. Or if you work at a company, like let's say you're the end customer that hires a cloud architect, you design it, you present it, you sell it to the upper management. And when all of that is said and done, the deployment team does it, and then you're there to assist and guide along the way. Not from a configuration perspective, but from a leadership perspective. When the team has trouble with certain parts, you can explain to them why they work and why I've designed it that way. So that's pretty much what we do in Neil Kumar. It is almost all and almost exclusively related to design, present, sell, and then move on to the next one. Chris, if you'd like to bring in the next one. Can we migrate network from on-premise to the cloud? Neil Kumar, that is 90% of what we do. We move the network and we move the servers, meaning the virtual machines, the containers, and our storage. That's 90% of what we do. Almost everything we do is lift and shift, where we basically take a network and migrate it to the cloud. So that's what we do with cloud architects. So unless you had a different question, I wasn't sure. So if you had a different question, let me know. Chan Wang, can you get an intern in cloud computing? It's pretty hard. Now you can try, and it's pretty hard. Here's the reason it's pretty hard. The cloud is so easy. Now it feels hard when you're an outsider, but compared to the way those of us have done things in the past, the cloud is so easy. Because the cloud is so easy, there's good and bad. One is we need a lot less staff than before because it's so easy. Because now we don't have to build the infrastructure and just install our stuff. The infrastructure is basically built for us. So very easy. Problem is, because it's so easy, in about a second's time, you can cause massive damage if you're not sure what you're doing. So can you get an internship? The answer would be yes. But the problem is, typically speaking, to train the intern, you need to dedicate a $200,000 to $300,000 employee to work with the intern. And that employee might need to spend a lot of time with them. So realistically speaking, it could cost an organization $50,000 to $100,000 of lost time and wages to actually run an internship for someone, just by having an expert to really co-lead the intern. So now there are internships where you do nothing other than basically make YAML templates or just things like this. So, there's that kind of an opportunity. But realistically speaking, it's very hard to get an internship. It's also very hard to get a fresher role or a new grad role. And the reason it is, right now, the economy's in really bad times. And we don't have a lot of extra manpower, extra people power to really dedicate it towards training interns. So you could get an internship. When I have students in our Cloud Architect Career Development Program, many of them also adopt to do internships in addition. So by the time they're done, they've got work experience on there. And you could also try going to LinkedIn and saying, I'm a highly energetic, highly enthusiastic, highly motivated cloud computing professional, and I desire to do an internship where I can help you achieve better results. And you might be surprised how many people reach out to you. But when it comes to internships, and I made a video about doing internships, the internship should teach you something. You should learn something out. It shouldn't be just a waste of your time where, realistically speaking, you're there and you're doing busy work, but not learning something. So if you're going to do an internship, make it great. Make sure you learn something. You could try and find one on LinkedIn. Again, don't make this, when you make a LinkedIn post for something, don't make it like I've been rejected. So please help like and comment, because all that's doing is signaling to the world this person that's not hireable. People like people that win. So if someone said, I've won, people will like it. If people said, I've lost, They haven't lost it. So my recommendation is as follows. Go if you want to find an internship. I'd rather see you find a really good training program and get great, so that when we finally get you an interview, you wow them so much, you could probably do better devoting 4 to 6 months in terms of learning things perfectly than you potentially could by doing an internship, unless it's the right internship. If it's the right internship, go get it. Chris, if you want to bring in the next question. Good morning, Mike. Why would any company be ready to hire me as a cloud architect just by attending your career development program without any real life experience? That is a great question, and I'll tell you why we are so successful at getting our people hired. Here's the thing. People think they can just go with a certified solution architect professional and be hired. And that's not enough. See, I can train someone to be a certified solution architect professional with 10 hours of training, and they can remember 80% of it. And that's nothing. When we have someone with no background, we put them through 500 hours of training. I'm not joking. It's 250 hours of training for people with a tech background and 500 hours of training with people with a background. And why we do it and why we're so successful is as follows. In those 500 hours, we do 100% things that are absolutely related to you getting the job. Meaning, we do end-to-end systems design. My students, every last one of them, could interview a client. And within 6 weeks of being in my program, they could interview a client. They could design a system that has 100,000 servers, 50,000 containers, 40,000 subnets that connects to 3 different cloud providers, that has user access in every country in the world, 5 petabytes of data, BGP connections to 10 different internet service providers, shared services, VPCs, and more. And every one of my students can do that within 3 to 6 weeks of being in my program. But that's nothing compared to the work they do. They learn how to write. And you may think, why am I talking about writing? An architect job isn't so technical. It's 50% technical and 50% non-technical. So we teach the writing, the business acumen, the executive communication skills, the emotional intelligence, and the executive presence. And then we have 250 recruiters that we can use to put our people directly in front of the hiring manager to prove that they're good. And then we have a lag segment, which actually provides real experience. See, here's what experience actually, employers don't actually care so much about experience, they care about competency. And I've polled thousands of employers. And here's the difference between experience and competency. Experience means you've been doing something for a while. Competency means you can do it great. Who do you want? The 28-year-old cardiologist that's known to be the best in the world, or the 80-year-old cardiologist with 60 years experience that was known to be a bozo when he first trained and never got better? Who do you want? The 14-year-old that can break into the Pentagon, or the 45-year-old with 20 years experience that doesn't know how to do anything, but they've been doing something for a long time? So number one, what employers care about is competency. Number two, what employers care about is honesty, integrity. Then they're looking for energy, enthusiasm, and passion. They're looking for people, what I call energizers, that raise the energy in the room. They're looking for people that go above and beyond, and they're there. So here's what else we do. We have a lab component. And when someone says I set up an EC2 instance or an S3 bucket, no employer cares. Why don't they care? I've trained an 8-year-old to do it in a matter of 6 minutes to set up an EC2 instance. So nobody pays someone to be an architect for that. But that's more of an implementation engineer. But you know what they will pay? That end-to-end system design, this business consulting, the management consulting. So that's what we train. See, when it comes to getting hired, we know how to skip the HR. We know how to get our students resumes directly in the hands of the hiring manager. But it's not just that. We know what hiring managers want. Do you know that when we interview people, 50% of what we look for is actually the technical competency, and the other 50% is related to soft skills, emotional intelligence, empathy, executive presence, enthusiasm? So what we do is we focus on the fit to get you to be 50 out of 50 on that, and 40 out of 50 on technical competency. So our students always on interview score an 85 to 90 out of 100, which is sky high because we focus on the intangibles. So that's why we're so successful. But also we give our students opportunities to really succeed. For example, our students do the following labs. Employers want to know that you know the network in the data center, because the cloud is just a network in the data center. So here's what we do. We have our students set up server virtualization. Then we have our students build containers. Then we have our students set up a file sharing via NFS for Linux, Unix systems, and then server message block for Windows. We have our students set up the LAMP stack, and not on like an EC2 instance, but hard way. They got to build the operating system with Linux, set up Apache, MySQL, PHP. Then, do you know what else our students do when they're done that? Our students then set up, build a firewall from scratch, build a VPN concentrator from scratch, set up Microsoft Active Directory, learn IAM. Our students even build the cloud. So I don't have a single student that graduates that couldn't build the AWS environment by themselves from scratch, because every one of my students does it. So they know how to build their own cloud, because a good cloud architect can do it. So what happens is, because in the last 25 years, I've got relationships with every major technology company and every leader in all these kind of companies, it's very, very easy for me to just call someone and say, hey, one of my students is ready. So we use a very different process. We have a plan to get our students directly in front of the hiring manager. We have special resume reviews where we basically show you how to use the labs. So imagine doing these labs, set up an EC2 instance, set up a WordPress site. Who cares? So worked with VMware ESXi for enterprise-wide server virtualization, built Docker and Kubernetes containers for organization-wide microservices and computing. These are something different. Built an OpenStack Ansible cloud for enterprise-wide cloud computing. These are the things that my students do, and they can put on their resumes. And I also do other things. I also co-author documents with my students when they do a really good job, and they typically get a job offer within 24 hours of doing it. It can't just be any blog. It has to be excellence. It has to be business transformational. It has to be life-changing. So we have ways to get our students to be known, build our students' brand. We've got connections with more hiring managers and more recruiters than I can count. Last week, for example, we had a VP at NVIDIA. The previous week, we had a director of customer success at one of the world's best networking companies. This week, we've got a bunch of executive recruiters on Friday that are going to come tell you what you need to be to get hired. So we've done this for 20 years. And you know what? My first job was a senior network engineer. And within 6 months of me moving into tech, I became a lead network architect. Now, previously, I was practicing medicine. So I've taken people for 20 plus years and helped them get their first tech. Here's the key. We make people excellent at their job. We make people very likable. We teach our students how to speak right and work like an executive. We teach executive presence, executive communication skills with likability factor. We teach them neuro-linguistic programming. By the time our students get in front of a customer, they can't help but hire them. And I'll say this, anybody that's been on more than 3 interviews and hasn't been hired has a problem with one of the following things: either technical competency, interview technique, or attitude. And we know how to address every last one of them, so our students get hired when they get interviewed. And I get a notification about a student getting hired every single day. So it's my world. It's the one I've been in. We have a different approach, but it's taken us 20 plus years to develop this approach and the method, and that's why we use it. Chris, if you'd like to bring up the next question. Can I tell you about machine learning in AWS? Well, I think the bigger question is, machine learning is machine learning. It's not about machine learning in AWS that matters. It is, what would you be using machine learning for? So in EF, I think we have to go from the engineering to the architecture. The engineering is, what is machine learning? The architecture is, how can machine learning benefit the client? That's why we're using the technology. So while the engineer just studies, how to do machine learning and how to work with the libraries and how to write the scripts, the architect is, what can we do to transform the business? Even the data scientists are more about, what kind of better decisions can we make based upon the data? So we're kind of in that same realm of, what are we going to do with the data? So machine learning, whether you do it on the GPU on a computer, whether you do it in Google, AWS, Azure, that doesn't matter. What matters is, what are you trying to achieve? So are you trying to make better, and are you trying to use it in a data science environment? For example, you want to pick, like, say, a data lake that you created and mine that data lake and make better business decisions. Machine learning would be used for that. Are you trying to do some kind of natural language processing? Machine learning could be used for that as well. So it's not about machine learning in AWS. It is, what are you trying to achieve? And then, is machine learning the best tool? Is there another tool to help you with these models? So happy to answer many more questions about machine learning, but realistically speaking, it's not about machine learning in AWS. It's about machine learning. It's about making better decisions. It's about mining data to make good inferences or good predictions. That's really what it's about. You may also find this. Since we're all in the multi-cloud world in today's life, and there's no such thing as a single cloud provider after some changes and decisions some of the cloud providers made about a year ago, and everything is multi-cloud, who has the best AI and machine learning technology? Who would you think? Who runs the world's largest search engine? Who runs the world's second largest search engine? Who do you think has the most experience using machine learning or AI? Google. So a lot of organizations do their machine learning on Google instead of AWS or instead of Azure. Now, Google, for example, Google, for example, doesn't have a lot of big, heavy infrastructure. Like to get a 128 core server on GCP, typically speaking, you can't do that. You can only get a 64 core. So a lot of people put their big infrastructure on AWS or Azure. So it's all about what are you trying to achieve? And the things that you're trying to achieve determine what you go. So whenever you're thinking architecture, think like an architect. An architect designs a house. They determine how tall it's going to be, how strong it needs to be. The architect works with the structural engineer to determine the density, the kind of wind that it needs to be, the building materials. Then the architect hands it off to a construction crew. And where they buy the bricks, the steel, the glass, no one cares because that's the parts. So I'd like you to think more about the cloud as just a store where you go buy your things from. And then you'll always, always, always know what to do. And I'd love to answer that in more depth if you answer more questions, but realistically speaking, it's not about AWS. It's about all of the clouds. It's about what you're doing there completely. So hope that's kind of helpful for you too. So Gabina, good afternoon from Nigeria. Oh, fantastic. We have lots of students in Nigeria as well as a tremendous number of Nigerian students. Just finished yesterday's YouTube video before this, and you're very informed and happy about this. Thanks. I am so thankful you got to see that video. The next one is actually going to be at noon today, which I believe is 5 or 6 p.m. in Nigeria, and we hope to have you there. Thank you so much. Really thrilled to have you here, Benga Benga. Taylor, you were a medical student now transitioning into tech. Great. I have lots of experience here. You earned your CCNA and currently studying AWS. What can you do to gain experience? What's the best route to take? Okay, so Taylor, I will tell you, my personal preference. It's going to be biased, but it's my personal preference. I know exactly what to do with you. I practiced internal medicine as a nurse practitioner for a while before I actually moved into tech. First thing I did was a Microsoft Certified Systems Engineer. Then I did a Cisco Certified Network Associate on my own. Then I became a Cisco Certified Network Professional, a Cisco Certified Design Professional, and then I became a CCIE. And that was my foray into it. So the best route to take for someone like you is to probably work with our organization in our Cloud Architect Career Development Program. And Chris can put the link to that in a coupon code because we've got more experience than probably anybody transitioning medical people into cloud careers and networking careers and other tech careers, because I've done it for decades now. So that would be the easiest. Now, if you're not with us, the question is, what would you actually like to do? Like, for example, let's say you wanted to be an architect, which is very different than being an engineer. So I'll tell you what to do if you wanted to be a cloud architect. And then while I'm describing that, Taylor, you can go to the menu. And if you want to do a different job on the cloud, then I can tell you exactly what to do as well. So if you want some different job other than a cloud architect or a solution architect, Taylor, please tell me in the chat box. Otherwise, I'm going to answer it as a cloud architect, since most people come to me for an architecture, because that's what we do and specialize in. So if you've got a CCNA and you're currently studying for tech, please do my boot camp this week. It'll be a good introduction for AWS. We will get you somewhere between, we'll take you from ground zero all the way to some midpoint between the solution architect, associate, and professional this week. So you can do that. Then we've got a completely free ebook on passing the AWS Certified Solution Architect Associate exam. And again, that's much deeper than a Certified Solution Architect Associate course would be. It's pretty deep in the book. From there, if you wanted to be a cloud architect, it's not just about certification. So prior to getting experience, you need the knowledge. See, Taylor, for architects, we don't configure, we design. So if you want to get experience, your experience needs to be in design. So take some architecture training, and that's what we do. But you're also going to need to get technically competent. Now, in our training program, you follow the 500 hours in our program, and guess what? You'll be technically competent, and you'll be good. But if you are not with us, here's what you need to do. First thing you need to do is you need to go buy these books. Internet Routing Architectures by Bassam Halabi. Sometimes he goes by Sam Halabi. Routing TCP/IP Volume 1 and 2 by Jeff Doyle. That pretty easy, gives you a good introduction and good moderate information on routing. It's about 3,000 or 4,000 pages, but it'll teach you a little bit about the networking components you need. It'll give you a good background. Then go to the Cisco and the Juniper webpage and learn about NAT, learn about VLANs, learn about QoS, learn about on-queue tagging, Ethernet over MPLS. Because the other things will take care of the routing from those 3 books that we gave you. So about 5,000 pages, of networking things, and you're going to have the foundational networking skills. Again, this is more important than experience because you have to know how to design. You can't design what you don't know. Then go to VMware and read about KVM and read about VMware ESXi. And about 1,000 pages, you can become virtualization really knowledgeable. Why do you have to be super knowledgeable in virtualization? Here's what you do as a cloud architect. You take the virtual machines from the data center and you move the same virtual machine to the cloud, and you must know all about virtualization because you've got to understand about single root IO virtualization and PCI pass-through and high-performance networking and all these things. You've got to understand that, so you've got to do that. After that, learn about containers. How do I learn about containers? Go back to VMware. Docker, Kubernetes, about 1,000 pages on containers, and you're going to know what you need to be able to design systems with containers. I want you then to do the same thing. I want you to go to the Dell EMC website. I want you to go to the IBM website, and I want you to learn storage. Again, for about 1,000 pages of reading, you'll understand block storage, object storage, file storage, and be good at it. Then when you're done that, security. Go to Cisco, Checkpoint, Palo Alto, and Fortinet, and spend about 1,500 pages on about IDS, IPS systems, and firewalls. Now, if you're in our program, this is 100% covered inside of our program. But if you're not, you definitely need to do these things. Then, IAM and AAA, you can read about Radius servers, you can read about federated identity and Microsoft Active Directory. Outside the cloud providers, about 1,500 pages, you'll have the knowledge there that you need to know. Then at this point, I need you to learn about Linux. And it's not so much Linux administration, it's more Linux, the way the kernel works, the swap files work, the architecture of Linux, the packages, those kind of things. Because you're going to have to work with these kind of systems as an architect in designing them. So then when you're done that, I really think everybody that wants to work on the cloud and needs experience needs to build their own cloud. So I strongly suggest you need your own cloud. Now, beyond that, now we need a set of labs. Now, as architects, we're not hands-on, but we still have to have some knowledge. Employers want to know that you've got experience with the infrastructure, network, and the data center. So if you're one of my students, it's all included. If you're not one of my students, I want you to buy a 16-core Xeon server with a minimum of 128 gigs of RAM and 3 SSD drives in a RAID 0 environment or a single large NVMe drive, because you're going to need that kind of performance. On the server, I want you to do the same labs that my students do. First, my students set up server virtualization so they can put on their resume, set up server virtualization for enterprise-wide computing, and then they can build Docker containers for microservices. Then they can say, for example, that they built the Linux Apache MySQL PHP stack for web applications. Then my students can say that they set up an NFS file sharing system for enterprise-wide file sharing among Linux and Unix servers. I want you to say the same thing about setting up some Windows file servers, because that's what our students do. When you're done that, I want you to talk about building an IP tables UFW/firewall on Linux for enterprise-wide security. When you're done that, I want you to talk about building an OpenSSH VPN concentrator for remote access employees. When you're done that, I want you to talk about setting up Microsoft Active Directory. When you're done on that server, I want you to build a cloud. So you can say, built in OpenStack Ansible cloud for organization to optimize an organization's computing performance. You can even say built in Nutanix cloud. Then federated OpenStack Ansible cloud with Microsoft Active Directory. Then connect your cloud that you built to another cloud. All my students do this. This is cloud architect experience. This is cloud architect training. This is what you need to do. This is why you come across as experienced instead of inexperienced. This is why people hire my students all the time, every single day. So here's the thing. If you do the following things, you will have lots of options. So you could train with us, and we'd love to work with you. We have extreme experience transitioning medical people or people with a medical background. We love the medical background because medical background typically teaches a little bit of empathy and emotional intelligence, communication skills. In healthcare, we typically do really good about learning how to ask questions and being open-minded and repeating things back to people. So you've got a good background already. And I'll let you know why I think architecture is so easy for you from someone like us is I've done both. Here's what we do in primary care. Patient comes in, let's say they say, I have a sore throat. What do? We look in their throat, flashlight tongue depressor. It's red or erythematous, and we say, probably beta hemolytic strep group B, and then we culture it to make sure. Then if we're right, we prescribe amoxicillin 500 milligrams 4 times a day, and the patient gets better. Now, what do we do as an architect? Meet with a client, ask some questions, evaluate the patient's, not the patient's, the company's symptoms. From there, we make an assessment, and from there, we make a plan. The plan is an architecture instead of a prescription. Same job as healthcare, and that's why we love working with healthcare people, is we know how to transition them, and we know how to make the employers realize their healthcare experience is architect experience. But if you wanted some job outside of architecture, let me know, and I'll give you some guidance. But Taylor, that's the advice I can give you coming from a healthcare background myself. Nitropan is an essay like a BA. Well, I'm not completely sure what a BA is, and I'm not necessarily sure I know what an essay is either. I'm thinking that the essay is a solution architect, and I could guess, but I hate guessing. But could be like a business analyst. So I'm going to guess business analyst, but I don't like to guess. It's because guessing is where errors occur. So I'll just talk about business analyst and solution architect. They're similar but different. Now, what a solution architect is much more like a business architect. So maybe you mean BA as in business architect. Here's what a business architect does. A business architect looks at a current organization. It looks at what they do well. It looks at what they don't do well. It looks at what the competitors are doing. It looks at the business's strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And then it determines how to redesign the business processes, how to redesign the workflow for an organization to do something better. That's what a business architect does. Now, here you're saying business analyst. A business analyst is someone, realistically speaking, that actually looks at an organization's environment and looks at the things that are going on business-wise and can run some analysis and make some recommendations. Again, very architect-like. Architects do the following. They actually evaluate an organization's systems, whether they be tech or non-tech. They evaluate what's going on, workflows and such, and they improve the organization's business. So again, very similar, but the business architect is more at the C-level, making C-level recommendations, and the analyst is very low on the totem pole, typically speaking. Analyst is the person that does all the work, and then typically it goes to somebody higher up that goes and does the presentations and the things. So business architect would be the elite version of the business analyst role. Now, the solutions analyst, I've never heard of that role in my entire life. I know about solution architect positions, but solutions analyst, I don't know what that is. I've never seen one, heard one. I've seen a lot of tech positions called analysts, but typically speaking, when they're analysts, they're typically relatively junior positions because you're typically looking at numbers and making recommendations. They're typically the hard worker in the background. So if there is a such thing as a solution analyst, and I really don't know because I've never seen one in my career, I can't really guide you. I can tell you what a business analyst does, and I can tell you what a business architect does, and I can tell you a business analyst, the focus is on executive communication, executive presence, business acumen, leadership skills, whether they come into a business architect, and I've done that kind of role too, kind of the enterprise architect role versus business architect role, and let me tell you, it is a wonderful job as a business architect. It is a wonderful, wonderful job as they are. Okay, so you're asking about a solution architect. So a solution architect is not going to be like the business analyst, although in some ways, well, it'll be much more like the business architect. The solution architect is going to be the person that meets with the client, asks the client their business, legal, technical requirements, looks at their goals, looks at what they want to achieve, and then finds technology solutions to help the organization succeed. So the business architect that redefines business processes and suggests, sell here, do this, do whatever, and the solutions architect that says to improve your business, here's the tech that's going to get you there, pretty much the same. But the analyst roles are more like engineering roles. Behind the scenes, hard work, you do the work, you present it to someone higher up, like the architect, and the architect presents it to the C-level leaders, the CEO, the CFO, the CIO, the CTO, and that's typically speaking, how these roles. But solution architect, business architect, almost the same. Nitropan, I hope I answered your question there. And Chris, feel free to bring up the new one. Can I share my thoughts on someone starting a full-time job as a cloud solution architect? I think it's great. I get a job offer every 1 to 3 times a day for working full-time. I think being a solution architect, a cloud architect, is a wonderful thing. And I think starting a full-time job with that is great. I think working as an architect is so great that I actually came out of retirement to build this program for you guys. Because here's what happened. I was an engineer for a little while. Well, that was hard work, but I loved it. And then I found that I had much more fun teaching others, leading others, mentoring others, presenting to the C-level executives. Love that, love that, love that. So I think it's a fantastic career. If you'd like help getting there, we can help you. But I think it's one of the best careers I know. It is so much easier than what do you call it? It is so much easier than the work as an architect, because it's a lot easier in my perspective to give a presentation, to use a corporate credit card, buy someone lunches, dinners, drinks, than it is to actually do the work. Great job, pays extremely well, and it is so in demand, it's incredible. So lots and lots of positive things I can say there. So next question. What is the best way to get experience after passing the certification, especially if you have no experience in tech? Well, the best way to get experience, is realistically speaking to go do stuff. So the best experience that I can give you is to learn the network and the data center. And when I say learn the network and the data center, I recommend that if you're with us, we give you all that experience. If you are not with us, go buy yourself a 16-core Xeon server with a minimum of 128 gigs of RAM and 3 SSD drives in a RAID 0 environment. The server must be at least 3 years old and no more than 7. It'll cost you in today's world about $1,500. When I used to recommend this prior to the computer and chip shortage, it was about $500. By the way, our training is half of the cost of the server and includes server access. But if you're not with us, and in our Cloud Architect Career Development Program, we'll teach you everything you need to know and you'll get experience. But if you're not with us, at least from an experience perspective, get the server that we talked about, set up server virtualization, build containers, build firewalls, build VPN concentrators, build the LAMP stack, set up NFS file sharing, set up SAMBUS file sharing, set up a Windows file server, set up Active Directory, build some firewalls, build some VPN concentrators, and go build a cloud. Federate the cloud to your Active Directory, do some networking labs with some EVE-NG and really get used to IP and BGP. That'll give you some hands-on. And then after you've done all the hard work, then when you do it on the cloud, you can see you can do in 3 seconds what you had to learn how to do the hard way. But you'll know what it is forever after doing these kind of labs. So that's how you get experience. So keep going. Chris, if you want to bring up the next question.
Yeah, there's a flood of them. I had my eye on one. I'm trying to find it.
Okay.
We'll put that up for right now.
Hi, Jawad. Hello, Mike. Go Cloud Architects. The program is great. Thank you so much. Jawad has been in my course now for about a month. I feel like he's learned a lot. And he's left me some very nice comments about the things he learned. How many students have you had and what's the hire rate, Nitropan? Over the course of a 20-year career, it's not many students that I can remember that did not get hired. So, I mean, it's pretty substantial. Almost every single day I get notified that one of my students was hired. And so what I'll say is over the past couple of past decades, I've worked with people, work with people. Now, it used to be expensive training. I always did it on one-on-one basis. I charged $300 to $500 an hour, and based upon what I was coaching, and 10, 20 sessions, and somebody could get a really great tech job and be hired from scratch. I loved that, but it was too expensive for most people. So when I saw the kind of training that was out there for the cloud computing professionals, I went, oh my God, this is terrible. In fact, it upset me so badly that I created this program. And when I spoke to my executive friends at the cloud providers, they're like, Mike, what are you going to charge? $25,000, $30,000 for this? I said, no. They said, why not? It's a $25,000 course. And I said, I want it to be something that anyone can afford. In fact, I'd like it to be a single day's pay for an average cloud architect. And they're like, you're crazy. Anyway, fast forward. We've taken in a few hundred students to this program. I lost count at how many people get hired. I will say that people that show up on the classes twice per week and people that do all the work, the hiring rate is extremely high. Almost every one of them that does that gets hired. I will also tell you that if we sign up with a student and they don't come to class and they don't do the work and we never see or hear from them again, those students don't get hired. But of the students that come to class and do the work, almost every single one of them gets hired. I lost count of a percentage. I don't track it, but it's got to be 85 to 95% of all of our students are actually getting hired that do the work. So each day I get another phone call. So anybody that comes to class and does the work gets hired. So I hope I answered your question in Japan. But people that don't come to class and don't do the work, buying a training program and not using a training program is definitely not something that, what do you call it? But our philosophy is as follows. We keep you in the program for the most part until you get hired. So if somebody's in my 16-week program and it's 18 weeks and they've not gotten a job yet, we'll keep them for 20 weeks or 24 weeks, whatever it takes until we get them hired. So we're super successful because we know exactly what hiring managers want. I at one point spoke to 50 recruiters and I've spoken to hundreds, and thousands of hiring managers over the last 20 some years. I've also interviewed 5,000 plus people. I've also interviewed 1,000 AWS certified people. And I talk to recruiters and hiring managers every single day. One of the largest cloud providers sent one of the directors to our actual internal class the other day, or like last month. And they did it for the following reasons. They wanted to show people why it matters to learn the things we do. Because it's not just tech in these roles. It's tech, leadership, business, acumen, communication skills. So it's an extremely high percentage. It's got to be between 85 and 95% of the people that actually attend the classes. But if people don't attend classes and they don't communicate in the classes and do the work, I can't help people like that. So I hope I answered your question. That's the honest answer. Come to class, you get hired. Don't come to class and don't do the work. I make no commitments on that. Chi Baby, thank you for all that you do. Thank you so much. I'm so honored and privileged to be part of this community and share my experience over the last couple of decades. M. Muru, is there any way to combine writing skills with AWS certification? M.W. Murio, I'm going to tell you this right now. Unless you are an excellent writer and an excellent presenter, it's impossible to be a cloud architect. So when you're dealing with architects or people that want to be architects that don't have writing, speaking, presenting skills, they become cloud engineers by default. So it is impossible to be an architect without having exceptionally good writing skills. And I'm going to tell you the following. Do you know how I built my tech career? It wasn't just by being great at BGP, because I have 10,000 hours of BGP experience. It wasn't that I was great at IP multicast, because I have 10,000 hours of IP multicast video experience in PIM and multi-protocol BGP and DVMRP multicast routing protocols. It wasn't for any of that. The first thing that built my career is when I took one of my first architecture jobs, I went and wrote up a document called Intro to IP Multicast. When I wrote that document, and that document is still used by the world's largest networking companies today to troubleshoot IP multicast networks, instantly, I was asked to speak in 3 countries a week. And I instantly built a career. And it was massive. When I joined Cisco and I joined the healthcare architect team as the lead architect, you want to know what the other cool stuff that I did, which is super fun? I wrote about how to build medical grade networks. I traveled 300,000 miles a year. I got 3 promotions inside of basically 3 years, specifically related to that paper that I wrote because it brought my visibility. So there is no way to really be an architect without these skills. So you must have great writing skills. Now, if you chose to be, after you became a good architect, if you decided that you were going to write books or training materials, then also writing skills are good. But realize this job is 50% writing and presenting. So you have to combine good writing skills with AWS certification if you want to be an architect. There's no possible options otherwise. That's why we have to spend so much time on writing. And executive writing is different than technical writing. Executive writing. We have to teach how to do technical writing to make it easy as well. Technical writing to be technical. So we're dealing with leadership writing, management writing, technical writing, all of it. Writing, and writing some more. Writing on your architectural designs. It's pretty common to have a 300-page architecture design. And there's a lot of writing in there. So it's a great skill to have, and you must have it, as a matter of fact. M.W. Murio. Krill, could I clarify the difference between a solution architect versus a technical architect versus an enterprise architect? Also, thanks for the fantastic content. So, yes. So I'm going to add one more architecture, Krill, and Chris, if you keep this here so I don't forget what's going on, because there's lots of things. Let's start with a cloud architect, which I think, and I personally believe the cloud architect and enterprise architect are by far the best roles. So let's start with the cloud architect, because that's someone like me. I'm also an enterprise, but let's say the cloud architect. The cloud architect is going to be someone that meets with the clients, that's going to evaluate their business, legal, technical requirements, what their competitors are doing, and find a way to help that business be more successful through the use of technology. The cloud architect will look at the data center. The cloud architect will say, this should be in your data center, this should be on AWS, this should be on Google, this should be on Azure, and design the end-to-end solution. Much more senior position than a solution architect. Cloud architect can always be a solution architect, but a solution architect needs training to be a cloud architect. That's my recommended one, unless you want to be an enterprise architect. Next is the solution architect. The solution architect is like a junior cloud architect, and they can design a solution on one cloud. So if you were to only learn Azure, that's a solution architect. Meaning it can help your customer only with Azure. As a solution architect, you will never be able to give your customer exactly what they need, because the best solutions are across multiple cloud providers, and most solution architects don't know more than one cloud. So cloud architect, end-to-end system design across many clouds or single cloud. Solution architect, cloud architect basically designs cloud solutions across a single cloud provider. Now, technical architect is something different. We architects are not super technical. We are 50% business and 50% executive. And that's what a lot of people struggle with. When an architect focuses too much on becoming technical and not enough on the business skills, the leadership skills, the business acumen, communication, executive presence skills, the architects don't get hired as architects, they become engineers. So the technical architect is kind of a way to take an engineer and pay them more, because maybe they have a little bit better business skills and maybe they can see the end-to-end picture, but they're focusing on the tech more than any other role. Now, the enterprise architect role is a role that I'm most comfortable with. And the enterprise architect is someone like me that basically stays at the C-level, spend our time with the CEO, the CFO, the CTO, the whole C-suite, the CIO, and we spend time with executives, and we're really evaluating the business processes, we're evaluating how to improve the business, we're designing solutions end-to-end to improve the business performance, whether that be a process re-engineering, whether that be a technology solution. So enterprise architects get paid the most because we're closest to the C-level, closest to the money. Cloud architects next, solution architect next, kind of that technical architect next to them. And now you kind of understand how that works. The more you go from the cloud engineer on the bottom right, which would be the lower paid but most technical, to the solution architect, which is going to be higher paid but less technical, to the technical architect, that's going to be technical, but also, some business, to the cloud architect, which is moving up, which is much more business, but still technical, to the enterprise architect, that's a little bit technical to very business. That's kind of your scheme of things. The less technical and more business you are, typically speaking, the higher salaries and more opportunities. The more technical you are, the chances you get to play in with the tech, and it's fun too. So you got to find out what makes you happiest. If you really love tech, that solution architect, cloud architect roles are really good. If you like being at the executive level like me, that enterprise architect role is also fun too. And I've done all of these roles, every last one of them. Chris, if you'd like to bring in the next one. Abigail Marks, good morning. So happy to see you. M and Ike Williams. Could you bring up the first one, Chris? How much does it cost for your full training program and solution architect? Can you be your student from Nigeria and get hired after? So, two things. One, we have lots of students in Nigeria, a fair number in Lagos, but also in other parts of Nigeria. We have helped people in Nigeria get jobs, but I will say it is harder to get someone a job in Nigeria than it is in the US, Canada, or the UK, but we've done it in the past. Chris provided a link to the training program, and in that there's a 20% coupon, so you can look at the link. The course traditionally is $1,000. We have a 20% coupon. that we typically do. But you can definitely be a student from Nigeria. We've got lots of wonderful students in Nigeria. Actually, I'd say we have 85 to 90 Nigerian students at this point, and a tremendous number from Cameroon, as well as all over Africa, India, and lots of places. But we definitely have a tremendous amount of students from the Nigeria and Cameroon and South Africa, but also we have lots in Ethiopia, Eritrea, Somalia, Gabon, Benin, Zimbabwe, Tanzania. It's kind of cool. It feels like there's a technology revolution going there because I spend so much time speaking to some incredible, great people in Africa every day. Then again, I do so in India and Asia, so it's pretty great to see. And yes, you absolutely can become a student from Nigeria. And if you need to reach out to us for any kind of reasons, you can do so as well. Drop in our office number in case you had any questions. Darwin Pennell, you just enrolled in your class. Wonderful. Look forward to working with you. Normally our next class would be on Friday, but because of all the work, the next class, in-person class, will be Tuesday. Hope you got that welcome email, and if you did not, make sure you send a message to our team so we can get you started off right and have an incredible experience. Sanjay Kohar, how to enter the cloud industry without experience because everyone is looking for an experienced guy. Okay, well, here's the thing. I've gotten people jobs at cloud providers every single day without experience. It's not a problem. What matters is competency. So Sanjay Kohar, there's two things going on. There's what HR wants and what the hiring manager wants. And generally speaking, they're opposites. So low performance companies like a cable company, and nobody's going to consider the cable company to be best customer service, best in class, anything. They typically get about 3,000 job applicants for a single position. And a great company gets 5,000 plus applicants for a single position. So what happens in these job descriptions, they look for 20 years experience, Olympic gold medals, and my favorites are like 20 years of Kubernetes experience and 20 years of this experience, stuff that didn't even exist 20 years ago. So, experience is never really the problem, ever really the problem. The problem is always, are you competent? So I've interviewed 5,000 people in my career. Of the 5,000 people, 10 were truly competent of the last 5,000 that I interviewed. I recently interviewed 1,000 AWS certified people that weren't my students. I couldn't hire a single one of them. That's why we created this program. So what people are looking for is, do you know the network in the data center? Because all we cloud architects do is take stuff from the network and data center to the cloud. So when people just do a certification, which is the name of the service and how to configure it, it's completely unrelated to the jobs we do. Because of that, that's why people are looking for experience. So, my recommendation is if you don't have experience, first learn the network and the data center. And, that's going to require some information. We've got a program that gets people hired all the time. If you're not, it's going to take you minimum, if you're not with us, of 15,000 pages of reading about the network and the data center to even have the knowledge necessary to do the cloud architect job. And none of that's covered in certification. Then, it takes building your professional brand so that the world knows to come from you. Again, we have an area of expertise. Then it takes building a resume that's going to be seen by the hiring manager. Then it takes, how do you set up a research and development section on your resume or something that's going to get you hired. And tomorrow, actually at 9 a.m., I'm going to have a webinar dedicated directly to this. Everything you need to do to get your first cloud architect job. It'll be tomorrow. And we'll do this for 60 to 90 minutes of a presentation, and we'll take questions for a good hour. And we do this every week, twice per week, to help you get your first cloud architect job. Chris from my team will pop the link in the description, but I strongly recommend it. But it's not the experience that's the problem, it's actually the competency. So what's also key, after you've built your brand, built your knowledge, built your competency, is that you get a recruiter that's connected to send you directly to the hiring manager. So when the hiring manager asks you questions, it's not a problem. I'm going to tell you this. Every employer interviews people without experience. Amazon does it every day. How do I know? I get people calling me every single day of the week. Mike, I've never worked in tech. I just got certified. Can you prepare me for an AWS interview tomorrow? And you know what? It happens every day. So they're interviewing people with zero experience every day. I had a student that came with me from Lagos, Nigeria, a really great student. He was with me 3 weeks. got interviewed by AWS and hired. So, and he had no tech background whatsoever, none, zero. But he came in, I think he literally stayed up all night every single day for 3 weeks straight to study my program. I know we had 2 discussions because he set up 2 private interview sessions with me. We had 2 interview sessions, and within 3 weeks of my program, he was hired. Now that is atypical. It's not normal. Typically, it takes 16 weeks for people with tech background, and about 24 to 32 weeks for people without a tech background. But you can do it if you're motivated. The key is getting you to the hiring managers. So we use recruiters. We have a massive network of recruiters. The recruiter puts you directly in front of the hiring manager. You don't get stuck by keyword scans. They ignore the experience thing. Then when a recruiter asks you a question, you're there. I got my first job with no experience as a senior network engineer. I've got students at cloud architect jobs every single day. In fact, I recently had someone with no cloud experience take a senior cloud architect job with IBM, but they had a good tech background, just not in cloud. I had another one from a Linux background recently take a senior cloud architect role with IBM, which was great. I've had lots of recent students take cloud architect roles with all the cloud providers, and they all came to me without experience, but they came to me with this: the desire and motivation to be great, the willingness to work, the willingness to learn, the ability to take part in long training calls, the ability to show up every single time, really, really, really doing what it takes to get there. See, I can give my students everything, but they've got to show up. So if you're willing to come in, do the work, literally study every day, you will get hired. But you have to be great when the person interviews you. And I'm also going to tell you this: if you think you can get to these jobs by just studying the tech, you are wrong. You must study soft skills, emotional intelligence, executive presence, energy, and how to be more energetic, how to bring out the best in others. You must have great technical competency. You must have business acumen. You must be able to do ROI modeling. You must be able to show the customer how you're going to solve their problems with technology. You must be able to conjure trust. The customer must feel that you're able to help them. These are the skills. So that's that gravitas, emotional intelligence, executive presence, communication skills, ROI modeling. You've got to learn all of that. That's the secret. And then when you meet the hiring manager and you possess all those skills, you get hired. 50% of what we consider on an interview is your technical piece. The other 50% is not. It's your soft skills, the other intangibles. So get your intangibles to 100%. Get your technical ability to 35 or 40 out of 50, because that's the best you're going to do without 25 years experience. You get hired every time if you impress the hiring manager. I've interviewed for 5 companies. I never had any of the experience they wanted for any of these jobs. It never mattered because I delivered a good interview, but I also had technical competency. So you can be great, just go do it. But also do those kind of labs I'm talking about. Do those kind of labs of building clouds for real. I mean, don't set up an EC2. Let's do that too, but build a cloud. Build an Active Directory server. Federate your cloud with the Active Directory server. Really work hard. Be the best, and you'll get hired. Chris, if you'd like to bring up the new question. Karun, looking for 5G related skills for cloud. Can I suggest some resources? Well, for 5G, you're probably going with a Nokia to learn about 5G. Nearly everything in the cloud or a data center is not wireless. So 99% of everything we're going to do will not be wireless. Servers all have a hard-coded IP address. Servers all have hard-coded wiring. The speed and duplex of these ports is set to full because you don't want any kind of thing that can go wrong. Wireless is a shared medium, so you can look to the Nokias of the world. You can look to the Qualcomms of the world, all these people that are in this chipset business to learn 5G. Not that much 5G related to the cloud, but 5G could be related to access to the cloud in areas where they don't have good network connectivity. So I would say if you want to specialize in 5G, specialize in 5G. If you want to specialize in the cloud, specialize in the cloud. They're kind of very, very different skills. Could you try and combine them? The answer is yes, but I don't know that it would be the best combination. Everything that we do as big architects is related to 10 gig, 100 gig AE, for example, and more, and it's all going to be fiber connections for reliability. CM show, currently you're praying for AWS and Devops as a DBA. Is it good to go with RDS? CM show, I don't know what career you want. For example, if you want to be an architect, do not study DevOps. So the real key is, what would you like to do? CM show, tell me that, and then I can help you. Because right now I don't know your career, and suggesting certifications without knowing your career could cause you to waste your time, effort, and money, and I don't want to see any of that. So let me know what your goal career is, and then I will help answer that. Abigail Marks, if I am still discovering what specific engineering I want to learn, will your program assist with this? The answer is yes, but we won't be teaching you engineering. We'll be teaching architecture, Abigail Marks, unless you have a specific engineering career that you desire to do. But generally speaking, we're going to teach you architecture. We're going to teach you architecture for a couple of reasons. One is you're coming out of healthcare, and coming out of a healthcare environment, teaching you architecture will give you many, 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 many more opportunities, because you can combine the healthcare and the architecture field. And by doing that over engineering, we can probably triple your salary as well as triple your career prospects. Now, if you wanted to learn specific engineering, we could put you on a path to that, and we'd happily do so. But you have a very specific, unique background, and that background would be ideally suited towards architecture. If we did it in the engineering side, which we could do, you will lose that vertical industry expertise that you have, which is going to make your candidacy so much more desirable. Because when you're in the engineering world, they're expecting you to just the engineering. If you can combine your healthcare world and the tech world, wow, magic will happen for you, Abigail. So, if you want to talk about engineering, I can guide you there in exactly the field that you want. I'm just saying that when you've got some extreme industry level expertise and you've got a track record, the architecture worlds have so much more to offer. So can get you there in either case. I just want you to get you to the place that is gonna I just want to get you to the place that is gonna make you happiest long term. Getting you someplace is very easy. Azim Mohammed, to become a successful cloud architect, do I have to learn AWS, GCP, and Azure? No, you need to learn the cloud. So AWS, GCP, Azure, Oracle, Dell, Cisco, Cloud Sigma, and 1,000 other companies all have a cloud. And guess what, Azim? They're all the same. Got a bunch of servers, a bunch of storage. You install what's called the control plane, which manages the orchestration and where your virtual machines, how they automatically spread out, your storage. They are all the same. So learn to drive a car. Don't learn how to drive a Honda. Learn how to drive a car. That way you don't go to training for the Honda, training for the Toyota, training for the BMW, training for the Mercedes. Learn to drive a car. So what we do is we teach people the cloud. Learn what a virtual machine is and be excellent at it. Know what a container is and what it does and be excellent at it. Know what DNS is and you'll be excellent at it. Know everything that it takes to be excellent in every one of these skills that's important, and you'll be excellent about it. Then build yourself a cheat sheet. I've got a cheat sheet. I use the same cheat sheet every day. Okay, I'm on Google today. I need a virtual machine. Oh, they call it a compute engine. So I go there. Hey, guess what? I need a virtual machine on AWS. That's called an EC2 instance. I need a virtual machine on Azure. They call it a virtual machine. Wow, that's even easier to figure out. Know every component that you need, and then it's easy. If you were going to build a house, does it matter which store you buy the bricks from? Of course not. It's irrelevant to you. If you were going to design a car, does it matter which manufacturer you bought the steel from? Of course not. Learn the cloud. Really know where each and every part of the cloud works. Get great at what is the cloud. Get great at virtualization. Get great at routing. Get great at switching. Get great at firewalls. Great at IDS, IPS systems. Great at storage. Then just go to the store and select the one you want, like me. To prove to you how easy it is to learn the clouds, I wanted to do this for my students, just as to prove a point. I've worked a lot on the AWS cloud, and I've built a tremendous number of other clouds in my life. You know which cloud I didn't work on? It was the Google cloud. Why? Because it's the smallest cloud. So I said to my students, we just wrote a Certified Solution Architect Associate professional book. Let's see how good our book is. Let me see if I can use this book to take the Google Professional Cloud Architect exam. So I wrote our Certified Solution Architect professional book, bought a Cybex book on the Google Professional Cloud Architect, spent Saturday, about 6 hours on a Saturday reading that book, 6 hours on a Sunday. On Monday, took the test, was done that exam in 45 minutes because it was so easy. Why? Because I knew the cloud. So if you know the cloud, you can literally take anybody's professional exam with a moment's notice. You just have to know the cloud. So Don't learn to drive a Honda and get a certification for that, and then have to go to specialty training to learn how to drive a Mercedes. Learn how to drive. You'll know what to do. That's my recommendation for you. And that's the way we doctors, and that's the way nurse practitioners like me do things. Here's why. I learned the classes and families of a drug. I learned what a macrolide is, what a quinolone is. I've got 30 or 40 drugs in each one of these categories. I don't need to know the name of the drug. I can look it up. I need to know I need an ACE inhibitor for this patient. And from there, I can go to my book and look it up. I need a calcium channel blocker for the patient. Okay, I can go look up which one I want to use and the doses. That's easy. But knowing what you need, that's a challenge. So instead, learn the cloud, learn everything you need, and then you'll always know what to do at a moment's notice, and you'll always be current because your fundamentals will be super strong. So that's what I would do, Azim, and that's what I do, and that's what my students do, and that's why my students are super successful. Robert, hi, Mike, you'll be starting our course soon. Wonderful, we look forward to working with you. Coming from a sales background, that is the best background for this kind of role, and no tech experience, that's fine. Should I be preparing for the solution architect or associate certification? Well, Robert, it's not the certification that I'm concerned about, it's the knowledge. No, we're gonna have to get you that certified solution architect professional. Robert, my recommendation is this. Watch yesterday's bootcamp video if you haven't seen it. Attend the certified solution architect associate bootcamp I'm doing this week. That is not exactly a certified solution architect associate bootcamp. We cover some of that and some of the certified solution architect professional. We cover what you need to know in this course, so do that. Then when you come in our class, we will bombard you with career development planning, communication skills, presentation skills, cloud computing knowledge, AWS training, cloud training, design training, everything. So start by learning this now. It'll make it easier, but you know what? It's not the certification I'm concerned about, it's the knowledge piece. So certification will be nothing after you've done some training with us. So do our training, join, and you can do the certification along the way. Chris, if you want to bring up the next one. Addie, new to IT training on Linux and AWS 2 weeks ago, but you still need to go to pass your certification exams. What is your advice? Isn't it possible to get a job? So Addie, I don't know your background. For people that actually work in tech, I can tell you some of the most senior principal and distinguished cloud architects I know have gotten great cloud architect jobs based upon being CCIE or Cisco certified, Internet Expert certified, which is about networking. If you've got a great tech background, then the certification is irrelevant. Now, if you are new to IT training and new to tech, is it possible to get a job before you're certified? The answer is probably not. If you're new to tech, being able to get a tech job prior to passing the AWS Certified Solution Architect Professional exam would still be extremely challenging. And actually, truth be told, getting a job with just the AWS Certified Solution Architect Professional and nothing else would be really challenging still, because it's typically speaking, that's about 10% of what's needed to really do the job. So here's what I would say. Take our training this week. Our training is less about AWS certification and more about getting AWS Cloud hired. It's slightly different. 2, work really hard to learn the network and the data center. 3, know exactly the job you want and prepare exactly for it, because you didn't mention which job you actually want. But I will say right now, the economy is not in the greatest state in the world. And because of that, it's going to be much harder to get a job unless you're extremely good at something. The reason is employers need someone that can hit the ground running. They hire them and they can work with minimal training factors. Now, in a good economy, we've got 1,000,001 employees sitting around. We can afford to dedicate, somebody to mentor someone new. But right now, it's kind of hard. So I would say, Addie, focus on being really, really, really great and strong at what you do. Give yourself a chance. Give yourself a chance to really get there. Get that certified solution architect professional as a minimum level 1. Get something from the industry. Learn the network in the data center. If you're not an expert at presenting, become an expert presenting. If you're not an expert at writing for business, learn it. Learn business acumen, learn what executives need about, and you can build yourself a career out of it. But give yourself the time. It typically it's going to take some time to get there, especially if you've never worked in tech. Now, if you've worked in tech, Addie, I can give you different advice and change everything. But if not, that first tech job, it takes a process. That's why we've got a specialty program. It's not easy, but it can be done. Never give up. Stay in the fight. Work harder each day. One thing I can suggest is if you keep If you try and try again and you're not getting there, change your tactic. Don't keep doing that same thing. You will get there. You will get there. You will get there. Take our free training this week. It'll give you a big heads up. Big heads up. Attend our How to Get Your First Cloud Architect Job webinar tomorrow. That'll give you another big heads up. It'll tell you all the steps and things that you need to know. And you can ask any questions you want live on Zoom, which is my favorite thing when people actually ask questions live. So happy to give you more guidance, but based upon what I see here, I don't have any more information. But if you tell me what your job is that you desire, I can help you get there quicker. Chris, if you want to bring on the next one. SF. May I please ask the salary of a solution architect and cloud engineer? Sure. What is the average salary for a CSA? So again, I'm going to go outside of the certifications. Average cloud architect salary is about $160,000, but that's average. People that are really good can easily earn $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 a year. I get job offers for these things absolutely every single day. A cloud engineer's salary is probably going to be about $100,000 for a basic one, or $110,000 to $120,000. It's going to top out around $150,000 to $175,000. The closer you get to the business, the closer you get to the money, by far the higher the salary is. Engineering roles have extreme limitations. Like what happens, you'll reach, like a principal engineer, and then it stops. The engineers are sometimes probably the most critical people on the team. They're the people that build the things we design. They're also the people that give us the advice to make sure that what we design is actually going to work. See, I don't need to know everything as a cloud architect, but I need to know who to ask. And those cloud engineers, trust me, are your friends. But the cloud engineering salary, because it's so technical and less business, the salary is so much lower. At the regular average person end, you're dealing with about a 30% difference between the cloud engineer and the cloud architect. At the high end, you can be dealing with a 200 or a 300% difference in salary in favor of the architect. So the reason I spend so much time with my students building the business acumen, the leadership skills, emotional intelligence, communication skills, negotiation skills, the reason I do that is it does the following. For my students that have no experience, it makes them so much more likable, the organizations can't not hire them in most cases. But it's more than that. Those are the skills that help you get a much higher salary and have a much faster career progression. So that's why we do the full picture instead of just the tech. Chris, if you'd like to take the next one. AfriP, great question. Is it feasible for people overseas to get hired or contracted, and what English level should they have for virtual work? The answer is yes, you can work remotely. I've been asked to work in multiple other countries remotely. Typically, I get asked a lot for Japan. I don't know why, but they're willing. They're willing to pay good salaries, and usually for some very great companies that overseas. So the answer is yes, AfriP. Now, what level of English should someone have? Excellent communication skills are necessary for these roles. So for a cloud engineer, you might get away with less. For a solution architect, for a cloud architect, extremely good communication skills are required. Now, let's talk about English versus accents. No one cares about accents. It's expected almost that everybody will have an accent. There's 7 billion people in the world. There's like 320 Americans, about 80 million people or so in the UK. And, if you combine US, UK, Australia, Canada, it's still a very small percentage of the world. So realistically speaking, everybody's going to have an accent now, and that's fine. But communication skills and good grammar is essential for these roles. So business people prefer to read it at a 6th to 8th grade level, including CEOs. You need to be able to communicate to an executive in plain, simple language. You need to be able to get to complex language if you need to, but ideally trying to keep it as calm as possible. So realistically speaking, those are kind of where you're at. But yes, easily do remote work, but you must have great English communication skills, unless you're going to work in another country. For example, someone from a French colony, for example, could do great in the Canadian provinces where they speak French, France themselves, Belgium, where they speak French or Flemish. So there's lots of places where people that have other languages can work and do great. But from overseas to do US, UK work or Canada work, you pretty much have to speak a good level of English. Chris, if you'd like to bring up the next question. How much does DevOps make? Here's the thing, Zionite. When you're dealing with these careers, I want you to think of something. You know, you've got extreme ranges. At the high end of DevOps, you can have some people that can earn, 180, 200 a year. At the lower end, you're going to have some sub 100,000 people. So what's different? What's different? Here's what's different. What's different is, to some degree, the more you get up in your technical competency, the faster your salary goes. But typically speaking, after say 150,000 US dollars, what ultimately happens is all related to your communication skills, your executive presence, emotional intelligence, energy, enthusiasm, passion, and how well you communicate. That is like a really critical thing. In fact, I had a manager about 20 years ago say, Mike, do you know the difference between a $100,000 engineer and a $300,000 engineer? No, tell me. And he said, executive presence, communication skills, emotional intelligence. My manager proceeded to say to me, he said, look, Mike, you're not like everybody else. He says, I don't know why, but you communicate to people, people respect you, they like you. I said, did you know I used to practice internal medicine? And he starts laughing. He said, well, that's it. He's like, you're just so consultative. He says, you just look at the big picture. You look at all the parts. You don't ever offend anyone. He said, I watch you. There's always people following you around. And when you got here, they know this. And by the time you're done, they know this. And it's like something's changing. So my manager said, would you like to go to leadership training? I said, yes. I said, how about sponsoring my MBA? And he said, yes. Anyway, between the company and me, I spent about $250,000 on soft skills, leadership training, communication skills training. You know what? It paid for itself within a year. So the difference between the lower end and the higher end is communication skills. Why do we spend so much time focusing on communication skills? For everyone, quite simply as follows. It makes you get hired when others don't. But more importantly, training emotional intelligence for the average worker increases their salary $29.6 thousand US dollars per year. So over the 30-year career, just doing that, it's about $1 million bonus that somebody would receive otherwise just by training emotional intelligence. Just that component of it. So train all of these skills, and what will happen to you, your career will grow at levels that you can't even imagine. It's not just the tech. Focus on all those other skills as well. Hope I answered your question there, Zionite. Taylor, looking into joining our program? Lovely. We'd love to work with you. Chris, if you'd like to bring up the new one. Saeed, is programming experience for cloud roles? If yes, which programming would you recommend for DevOps? Saeed, okay, here's the thing. It depends on the role. Cloud architects do not code and will never code. So it's not a relevant skill. Cloud engineers do code. So cloud engineers will need to know Python. Cloud engineers will need to understand Node.js. They'll need to be pretty good at making YAML templates and those sort of things. SysOps people, the maintenance people, they also code and script constantly. DevOps people, you need to be a really good developer. So you're not just going to learn a single programming language and then be a DevOps engineer. For DevOps, you need to be a good coder. So realistically speaking, you probably should have worked as a software developer and be a full stack developer in multiple languages. But you may get away simply with Java, C#, Node.js, Python, Bash scripting, and DevOps. But in DevOps, because it's a heavy development role, you probably need to have some really good, really great coding background. And then you need to be really good at all the tools. So I think DevOps is one of the top 10 careers for the future. I love DevOps. I am an architect, not an engineer, so that's why I don't do DevOps. But I got to tell you, I think the future is very bright. Do you want to know how bright I think the future is for DevOps? I'm actually working with Sandeep Das, and within 3 months or so, we should have a how to get your first DevOps job program. And we're going to teach the coding. We're going to teach all the tools on and off of the cloud. I don't make one because I'm not a DevOps engineer, and I don't think it's fair for a training provider to make a course for which they're not an expert. I'm not going to go do 10x AWS certifications and then teach you 10 things that I don't know. I'm going to make sure that when we teach our students, we are the best in the business, and we give you better knowledge and communication and better experience and expertise than anyone in the world. And I think it's so great that Sandeep Das, who's one of the best DevOps engineers I know, I think it's so important that we're making our own how to get your first DevOps job program. And it's going to take all of my 20 plus years experience teaching people how to get hired, how to interview, how to present themselves, the security and the networking component of it. And Sandeep will do all of the rest of it. So I think it's a great career, but you've got to have some good programming skills. Chris, if you'd like to bring in the next question. Now, by all means, we're doing this to help you. So if you've got any cloud architect career questions or solution architect career questions or network architect career questions, let us know. Ben Yu, for an architect who is trying to climb the building ladder, what certificate would you recommend after the solution architect professional? Ben Yu, if you're trying to climb the ladder, at this point, it's going to require much, much, much more business acumen. So I wouldn't do another certification. I would focus on the business skills. And first I would make sure that you actually understand the network and the data center, because if you don't, the certified solution architect professional is just not enough. But if you do, I would say, don't go more technical, go leadership. Learn how to do ROI modeling. Learn, the difference between a CEO, CFO, CIO, CTO, what they do and what they care about and how to present to them. Learn the difference between functional, visionary, and analytical personality types. Learn how to present differently to the visual, auditory, kinesthetic type. Learn how to lead a team of 30 cloud engineers that don't work for you, but you still have to lead. Learn how to do an ROI model of $1 billion technology solution, so you can convince the customer it's there. Learn how to improve a business with technology. That's how you climb the ladder. The ladder is solving customer problems. It's not a technical role. It's partially a technical role, but it's a lot business. So, there's that. Now, if you're not hired because you haven't worked yet, I'd say focus on an area of expertise. So pick networking, for example. Get the Certified Solution Architect Professional and the CCNP. You want to be a cloud security architect, do a CISSP and the Certified Solution Architect Professional. But if it's about moving up and not getting hired, moving up is always related to your business acumen and your communication skills and your leadership skills. Almost never the technology piece, unless you're not competent in the first place. And if you're not competent in the first place, it'll be hard to get hired. But if you're hired and working, and your whole goal is moving up, not moving in, it's all business communication skills, leadership, emotional intelligence, business acumen. That's how you move up. That's the biggest place to go. Spending 100 hours on emotional intelligence training will have double the impact on your career than spending 1,000 hours on further technology training once you're an architect. Chris, please bring up the next question. Abigail Marks, if you only have Python experience, can you become a DevOps engineer in the future program? Well, yes, because we're going to have coding lessons inside of that program because it's essential for DevOps engineer. I still think, Abigail, with your healthcare background, we could do far, far, far better for you combining it into an architecture role. But you could become a great DevOps engineer as well. And DevOps is a great place to be. Atul, there are a number of AWS services available. What would you recommend, and how would you become an expert on all of them? Well, here's the thing. Atul, I don't recommend you become an expert on any single cloud provider services. I recommend you become an expert on the cloud. See, here's the thing. Where people get lost and where all my people struggle is they're so focused on AWS services. So they become an expert in S3 and configuring it. And they become an expert in setting up EC2 instances. And they become an expert in Kinesis. And they become an expert in this. And guess what? They still don't know how to solve the customer problem. So I recommend, well, I don't know which goal you want. So if you tell me your career, like if you wanted to be a cloud engineer, you can just work with them. But still, don't learn every service. Every service is across 10 different industries. Now, only in the cloud have I seen this crazy kind of thing. And I'm not talking about what you're referring to as crazy. What's crazy is everybody thinks they can learn everything. I mean, they're going to be a developer, a sysops person, which is maintenance, an architect, a DevOps engineer. I mean, this is crazy. This is not what we do. I want you to become good at something, Atul, and I want you to become great at it. If you want to be a cloud engineer, learn how to be the best cloud networking person out there, the best cloud security engineer out there, the best cloud big data engineer out there. Really focus on something. A jack of all trades is a master of none. Do you know what a master of none gets paid? Very little. Do you know what a master of none gets hired? Very little. Do you know who gets paid a lot? Someone that's excellent at something. So don't try and learn all the AWS services. Learn the cloud. Learn virtualization. Learn containers. Learn container orchestration. Learn security. Learn data load balancers. Learn DNS. Learn the main components off of the cloud. How does all of this stuff work? And then bring yourself a cheat sheet, how to configure. The hardest networking exam in the world was the Cisco Certified Network Expert, Internet Expert. In fact, when I did it, it was a 2-day exam with like a 90-some% failure rate. There was no preparation materials. There was no exam dumps. It was 2 days long, this test in those days. They gave you the instruction manual during the test. Why did they give you the command configuration manual? It was as follows. They asked you to do things that would require so much knowledge and you'd have to think about to actually design the system to then go build it. They didn't care if you knew the command. So learn the cloud. Learn all of the functional things on the cloud. Virtual machines, containers, firewalls, load balancers, storage, all the kinds of storage. Now, don't worry about the AWS ones. Learn them. And then learn the AWS functional equivalents, and then learn the Azure functional equivalents, and then learn the Google functional equivalents. But see, what you're learning now is a brand. So I'm teaching you how to drive the car. And then I teach you what the engine does. I teach you what the steering wheel does. I teach you what the brakes do. I teach you what the transmission does. I teach you everything about the car and how to drive it. But I teach it in a generic way that you can use it for everything. And that way, when you go to another car, yeah, maybe you have to reset the mirrors and okay, maybe the radio buttons are here or here, but you're still driving a car. So don't learn all the AWS services. Do the following. First, learn the cloud in general, and then figure out which services work. And that way you're multi-cloud all the time. But more importantly than that, pick the area on the cloud you want to work for and get great at that. If you want to do cloud security, look at all those marketplace solutions that people are doing. How do those market solutions integrate with cloud native solutions? What kind of other things can you bring in? That's what I want you to do. Become an expert on a subset of the cloud. You'll always be employed, and you'll be much more paid as an expert than a generalist. Many, many, many more opportunities. Hope I answered your question there, Atul. And if you have more specific information you want to give me or more questions, I'd love to answer them. Miguel Mentrum. Hi, Mike. Will it make a difference to have a bachelor's or master's with a certification? Not really. Master's degrees can be helpful. I would tell anybody that I had that had a bachelor's degree, if they wanted a master's degree and they're working in tech, not to do a master's in tech, but to do a master's in business. It will have a bigger impact, probably tenfold over an MBA over a master's degree in technology any day of the week. Next question, Chris. Vanessa Sneed, you have a business degree. Great. And most experience is in risk, financial crimes. Great. But you're interested over moving into tech. So, Vanessa, my question for you is as follows. Do you like to be in front of people? Do you like to communicate? Do you like to present? If you do, architecture roles are generally the best. If, for example, what you enjoy doing is really staying behind a computer all day, then engineering roles are good for you. So if you let me know what you like, I can definitely give you some better guidance on it. It's based upon what's going to make you happiest because you're going to be working for a long time in your career. Miguel, you're welcome. Always happy to help. Killian Wyndham, what are employers looking for during an interview for someone with no hands-on experience? Great question, Killian. Here's what employers are looking for. Technical competency. Could you do the job? Next, are you trustworthy? Here's how 90% of interviews go wrong. Someone asks a technical competency question and someone lies or bluffs. That ends the interview. So technical competency, number 1, honesty and integrity, number 2. 3, do you know what you know and do you know what you don't know? And can you find the answers to things quickly? See, one of the most dangerous sets of employees are the people that don't know their limitations. They go in, they make a mistake, and they cause an outage. Facebook just had a $7 billion outage due to a technology misconfiguration. $7 billion lost due to an error. This is because the employee wasn't safe. Now, when we're dealing with configuration errors, they're not typos in most cases. The routers won't even let you make a typo unless it's part of a route map or something you need, because otherwise they self-complete with the tab function. What happens is people don't know what they're doing. And they misconfigure it. Whether it's the hack of the day on the AWS with the S3 buckets, because people didn't know what they were configuring, or the BGP misconfiguration with Facebook. That's what they're looking for. So they're looking for, can you do the job? Are you honest and trustworthy? And 3, do you know what you know and know what you don't know? For the same reasons that Facebook had that problem, because we've seen it all the time. I've seen so many billion-dollar outages and bankruptcies related to people not knowing their limitations. The next things employers are looking for, Killian, is, are you energetic or enthusiastic? But seriously, would you want this guy? Or do you want someone that's excited and ready to go? So, those are those kind of things. So, after that, they're looking for emotional intelligence. Can you bring out the best in others? And after that, what else are they looking for? They're looking for a team player. See, architecture is a team sport. It's not a single person. It's a whole bunch of people collaborating on a design. This is the big deal. These are big leagues. These are big designs. That's what architecture is. So, team playerness. And the last thing is, are you willing to go above and beyond to get the job done? These are the things an organization cares about. So, do that. You get hired. Doesn't matter if you have experience, as long as you're capable. Wonderful, Killian. You're more than welcome. Atul, what are the various subset of the cloud which you just spoke about? You currently work on designing solution using Amazon Connect, Lex, Lambda. All of these are new to me. Here's the thing, Atul. That's maybe 1% of designing the solutions. So, realistically speaking, the subset of the cloud is, so for if you just want to do contact center kind of things, great. If you want to do a certain type of thing, that's great. But realistically speaking, various subset of the cloud. So cloud networking would be one. Cloud security would be another one. Cloud IAM would be different. IAM, yes, is different than security, even though it's a component of security. Cloud big data would be another one. Big data could also be clumped into cloud AI, but that could be another area that you focus on. We have engineering people that focus on on automation, like Devops people. We have people that focus on engineering that want to do maintenance. They're the SysOps people. We have cloud people that the big data that are the database archetypes. And then you can also be a specialist like me, like I'm a cloud big data healthcare. So I'm like a cloud network architect, or you can be an industry architect. Like I've got lots of experience in the financial industry and the healthcare industry. So you can be a cloud architect who specializes in systems design for banks, or a cloud architect or a cloud engineer focused on systems design for technology companies or healthcare organizations. So those are kind of the places where you can build your career. Worrying much less about the services and more about the business transformation. What are you solving? That's what architects do. Vanessa Sneed, you have great soft skills and enjoy working with people. You worked in customer service. That's a great background when you was in school. But now your professional skills aren't being utilized. So you asked me which career is better. If you have great soft skills and you like communicating to people, I would be an architect over an engineer any day of the week. You'll work half the level of effort and get paid twice as much over the long term. So engineering jobs are hard. They're great jobs. I love cloud engineers and network engineers. I was even one for a while. But these jobs are hard jobs. People are paying you to work. Whereas the architect, half of your job is entertaining clients and buying dinners and drinks on a company credit card. So I find that a lot easier. I also find it easier to go speak and present to others. So I enjoy that. But that's me. We all enjoy different things in life. So it's important to do what you like. And that way it's not like you're working hard. Okay, we have to end by 11 a.m. Eastern today because of the, because of the boot camp that we're doing today, which I strongly advise everyone that comes. So does anybody have any last questions for me? I've got 15 more minutes before we have to close. There's about a 60-second delay. While we're that, let me remind you of two things. AWS Certified Solution Architect Associate Bootcamp starts at 12 noon today. Definitely recommend it. We had thousands upon thousands of people attend yesterday, and the feedback was amazing. So please attend. Next, tomorrow, we have our How to Get Your First Cloud Architect Job webinar. We will tell you everything that you need to do to get Cloud Architect hired. And after that, the next thing that I wanted to tell you is on Friday, we have some tech recruiters from IT Excel, and they will answer any questions you have about getting hired. You can submit your resume to them. They may be talking about some great jobs that they have for you. They're connected with thousands upon thousands upon thousands of great employers. They placed so many of my graduates over the years, and they placed me in 2 of the 5 companies I've interviewed for, and they were really, really great. So lots of them. Abigail Marks, do I have any advice on how to find what field I want to get into the cloud? Yes, Abigail, I think you need to look at your personality. I think you need to think about what do you enjoy. So if you really enjoy changing things on a big scale, it's architecture. If you really enjoy sitting behind a computer, it's engineering. Both are great. And I can highly recommend both as a career. And we actually have a video that's related to finding things that are internships that are related to your personality. But I would really say the following is really most important. It's really about what's going to make you happy. I think you actually have a really good background with regards to healthcare. And I think that really you should do something with healthcare architecture based upon what I know about you. But, I'll speak with you at some point soon so I can give you better advice. But, when you've got industry expertise and you're not Mr. or Mrs. Programmer, architecture is probably the best place to go. Now, if you love coding, then I would say coding is a great thing, then all of those things. But it's really about things. But, you are a leader as an architect, but it's not a command and control leader. Look, there's like 10 different leadership styles, and it's a matter of using the right one. And an emergency, I command and control. You over there, do that. You do this. But you really think that's long-term successful? It doesn't work. So whether you take an authoritative, an affiliative, or one of the other management styles, you have to choose one that's appropriate for the situation, but also appropriate for you. I'm not Mr. Command and Control, not me at all. I don't hire yes men. I look for people that'll basically tell me exactly what they think, whether I want to hear it or not, so I can make better decisions. So it's all different, and it's based upon your personality. But I would say, you got to make something that makes you happy. If you don't like leadership, you can do engineering. If you do like leadership, I've got to tell you that architect is probably the best job out there. I went from engineering to architecture, and what a difference it was. It was just such a better job. Now, I still respect engineering. I need engineers, and I love engineers. But I'm much more happy with architecture roles. Chris, is there anything else for us to answer? Ken Zebra, do I have any advice on developing writing skills? The answer is yes. I would get exceptionally good at learning how to write for simplicity. Elegance and simplicity. Generally speaking, no sentences above 11 words. Make it readable. So it's all about, there's a format that we write. We start with an executive summary telling the people what's going to be in the document. Then we make an introductory point. Then we provide our supporting evidence, why we were right, and then we summarize by going over the things that we've done. It's really about that, but it's really about taking 50 pages of content and squishing it into 2 and making it easily readable at the same time. So when you're in an MBA program, for example, they say, I want you to write a 30-page document on this. What they should say in that MBA program is, I want you to give me 30 pages worth of content in 2 pages. That's the job. So I got to tell you, I had one of my executive coaches many years ago. She basically said to me, if you want to really get ahead, learn to write for simplicity. Don't let everybody realize when they're writing how educated you are. Make it simple, understandable, and what amazing things will happen to your career. And she was right. So that's what I recommend. Simple and elegant. If you look at any of our blogs, and we have a pretty strong technology blog. In fact, Chris from my team will post a link to the blog in the chat box. Really great blog. You'll see how everything is designed for simplicity and elegance, yet we communicate so much tech in a short period of time. That's what I recommend for you, Candid Zebra. Jamal ABD. Is the network background like Cisco certifications, which will help a lot? So, Jamal, it's not certifications, it's the actual knowledge. Certifications are just some paper thing that means you learned something. Will network certifications help like the CCNP? The answer is absolutely yes, but it's more about knowing it. So I've interviewed thousands of Cisco certified people, and for the most part, I met some that knew something and a lot that didn't. It wasn't about the certification, it's about the knowledge. No one doesn't get hired because they don't have certification. People don't get hired because they don't have anything to back up the certification with. So the networking background is as follows. It's good understanding, deep understanding of the BGP protocol. Not how to configure it, but how to actually design it. How to traffic engineer it. You know, things like setting communities, matching communities, determining which routes you export versus not export, your IBGP environment, your eBGP environment, your tuning, your route leaking, all that stuff. It's minimum level network. So then, you know, there's the concept of the VLAN, the private VLAN, and the .1Q tagging, Q and Q tagging, Ethernet over MPLS, software-defined networking. These are kind of some of those networking things. NAT, how does NAT work? The many use cases NAT, NAT inside, NAT outside, one-to-one NAT, one-to-many NAT, static NAT, dynamic NAT. Then from the networking side, you know, things, so we've done a little bit about layer 2 stuff with VLANs and tagging. We've done a little BGP, but you also have to understand the IGPs, specifically how they work. So IGPs and tuning IGPs, you really should know something about. You should have a deep understanding of IPsec, a deep understanding of the types of layer 2 connections that exist and private lines and those sort of things. You should understand service providers and points of presence and cross connects and things like that. That's necessarily part of it. You should have a strong understanding of DNS and extremely deep knowledge of the TCP/IP protocol at every level. You should have good network troubleshooting skills, good network design skills. Those are kind of those networking things that really help you become a cloud architect. Everything from Ether channel, port aggregation protocol, all of it. All those things that we've done on the network, that's the kind of knowledge. So yes, the CCNP certification is great, but you can go through the CCNP certification and still not know BGP. You need to know BGP. So it's kind of a cross between CCNA and CCIE level knowledge that's needed to be a cloud architect, in that, you know, BGP really isn't taught until you reach the CCIE level. Having said that, you know, BGP knowledge is super session. So hope I gave you the complete knowledge of that. Oh, you watched our BGP session. It was great. Thank you. Wonderful. I'm so happy we're there. Those are those networking things, Jamal. And if you get that, boy, those things will help you in ways you can't even imagine. Cloud architect, when we learn the cloud, are we aligning ourselves with it's generic. So pick a home cloud. And for the home cloud, I recommend it's AWS or Azure. They're the only two I recommend as a home cloud because they dominate the market. It would be very hard for someone that has no background to just get a Google Professional Cloud Architect cert and expect to get a job with it. It's only 5 to 10% of the market. And not everybody realizes that there's different brands of cars out there. So I would say don't do the GCP certification, even though it's my favorite of the bunch and the one that's most industry relevant. Do the Azure Expert or the AWS Certified Solution Architect Professional. They would be the two certifications I would recommend. Now, when it comes to the learning, learn the cloud. Now, when you learn a language, for example, I speak English and Greek. I don't make a sentence in English, write it down and translate it to Greek. I think in Greek or I think in English. So I want you to know the cloud so you know which service equals the thing. I don't want you to be like, oh, S3. Wait, what's S3's equivalent? Wait, it's Azure Blob. Oh, no, I'm on Google. I don't know what to do. Blob this. I think they're the same. I'm not sure they're the same. I want you to be sure. I want you to know that BGP is BGP on any cloud provider. I want you to know that an address given by DHCP works the same way. I want you to understand that DNS and DNS policies, or it doesn't matter which cloud provider you're using. I want you to understand that block storage is block storage wherever it's at. That object storage is object storage regardless of the cloud provider. And then have a home cloud like AWS or Azure that you know best, that understand more of the underlying technology as opposed to what is the actual certification name. Marcus John, what are the essential certifications to get for cloud computing? There are no essential certifications to get for cloud computing. What's essential for cloud computing is to be knowledgeable of what is the cloud. Now, if you're looking for certifications, the question is determining what job do you actually desire? Because the job that you have will guide which certifications you desire. Cloud computing is a very big field. There's a tremendous number of certifications you get. So if I don't know which one, it's going to be there. For example, if you want to study an architecture and you study sysops, it's going to keep you from getting hired. If you want to be an architect and you study DevOps, again, it's going to keep you from getting hired because it's going to dilute your brand. If you want to be a DevOps engineer and you're doing TOGAF, it's going to hurt your DevOps brand. So it's a matter of knowing what you want and getting the right certification. So Marcus, John, tell me your desired career and I'll give it to you, but I don't want to give you something that could send you down the wrong path for a long period of time. So Chris, I don't have enough information to answer that. Krill, as an architect, how closely do you usually work with the technical program managers? Very. Is it only during the hands-off delivery? So here's the thing, Krill. You know, even during the architecture project, let's say I start with the client, ask some questions. Maybe I baseline the company's systems for 6 months straight. Maybe I needed 20 people to do that. Maybe in the process of baselining the company's systems, there's steps related for the network, steps related for the storage, steps related for the compute, steps related to the wiring, steps related to all of it. I might actually have a technical program manager manage that with me, where I'm the leader of the team and the technical program manager is the taskmaster. You did this, you did this, you did this, you did this. So even during a proof of concept, if the project's big enough, you'll have a technical program manager. So you will be constantly working with program managers. You will do the leadership piece of keeping everybody happy and motivated. The program managers will make sure that things get done. And they're darn good at making sure things get done. So you'll always be working with program managers. Okay, I wish I could stay much longer, but I can't because we've got our fun free boot camp that's coming on in an hour. So everybody, please join the AWS Certified Solution Architect Associate Bootcamp. We will go over much, much more than just certification when we do it because we're all about getting you cloud hired. So thank you for your time this morning. It's been a real privilege to speak with you. I'll be here very, very, very soon in another hour, and we will be talking about AWS. So look forward to seeing you all. Take care.